Good morning, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. It's morning for me. I don't know how about for you, because you could be watching this anytime because it's on YouTube. But I got a crafting distress call from one of my blog readers, Vicky, who wanted to know how to paint snowdrops because they're white and it's a little confusing. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to get right to that today. She requested that a long time ago and it was on my list. So I thought, you know what? You just got to do it, Lindsay. Also, a couple people had asked to see my travel watercolor palette, which actually is what I'll be doing a lot of my tutorials with, because I like that I can have the palette part visible so you can see as I'm mixing the colors and know what I'm doing. So there's a lot of colors here, you know, the alizarin crimson, the sap green, the ultramarine blue. Those colors I use a lot, so I end up refilling them from tubes. But these little paints, this is a Cotman set by Winsor & Newton, came in these little plastic pans, so you can actually take them out and replace them if you want, order different colors. They're a little harder to find than the tubes, so when I run out, I just refill it with my M. Graham & Company tubes that I prefer. So thought I'd just show you that real quick. The colors we're going to use today, I'm going to just paint on a little watercolor card that I've clipped to a piece of foam core. And the colors we're going to use today are sap green. I already had that on my palette from yesterday, so I thought I'd just leave that out. We're going to use some lemon yellow or cadmium yellow light, whatever you have for a cool yellow. And I'm going to actually go, when I'm using Cotman, because that's more of a student grade paint, I like to spray my palette first because it helps release the color. When I'm using my artist quality paint, I don't really need to do that, but you know, just a little tip for you. Nothing wrong with using the student grade paint. I'm also going to use some, I think I'm going to use some Indian red. It's very similar to a burnt sienna, but since I have no other red in this this painting, I'm decided to go with the Indian red. You can use burnt sienna if you have that instead, that's fine. And I'm going to use ultramarine blue. And I'm going to put that right over here. I want you to be able to see where I am mixing. And I think you'll be able to see that pretty well. All right, and my whole paper's in the scene, so that's great. All right, so we're gonna sketch a snowdrop. Look at that, we're like 2.5 minutes into the video and I haven't even drawn anything yet. I'm gonna start by putting in the flower, which kind of, to me, looks like a firefly. It always reminds me of like a firefly when I see a snowdrop. I'm not sure why exactly. I think it's just because I think the petals on the side look like wings. And then you've got this kind of like stamen in the middle that looks like a little body to me. And then we have like 3 main petals on the snowdrop. I'm gonna tuck that guy in right there. And the stem usually kind of comes up kind of like a shepherd's hook there. And it's gonna go down into the snow. We've got plenty of snow. We don't have any snowdrops peeking out yet, but wouldn't that be nice? Usually the crocuses kind of come out first. I have a black thumb. I'm really going to try to grow a garden this year because I'd like to be a little more self-sufficient. But when I walk the dog in the morning, I always know spring's right around the corner when I see my beautiful gardens, my neighbor's gardens start to bloom. I'm going to put another one right over here. I'm going to put 3 in just because it will be a little more pleasing of a composition if I have 3. Let's have one over here, kind of facing the other way. I don't have too much room to work. I want to make the petals big enough that you can see me paint. And I think that's what kind of has had me waiting so long to do the snowdrop, because the petals are kind of small and I tend to like to work on flowers of bigger petals, bigger flowers. So, but that's alright because this is good. It's good to break out of your comfort zone, I think. So of course I just got up recently. So if my voice is froggy, I do apologize. I think I'm alright. I've hopefully my coffee has warmed up the pipe, so to speak. And let's put one more right down here, maybe a fuller one. And I'm sketching with just a regular mechanical pencil. I believe it's like a number 2 or HB type of lead. It's kind of dark, but I want it to be dark enough for you to see, so. And we'll just put that in there, maybe put a few blades of grass. Oh, let's put some snow, shall we? Yes, let's put some snow down below our snowdrops. That is it's a sign of optimism that spring is on the way. Put a couple of little blades of grass here, And there we go. There, we're in good shape. Now, something you might want to do rather than sketch right onto your background would be to sketch on copy paper and then transfer it with some transfer paper. But for a watercolor card, I actually think it's kind of fun and charming to see the pencil lines underneath. You can erase them though when you're done painting. You can go right in with a soft vinyl eraser, you know, the white kind, and go ahead and erase your lines if you don't want to see them. It's complete personal preference. When I was more of a beginner, I wanted those pencil lines gone. I wanted to be like, oh, the magic of painting. And now I actually like seeing the pencil lines. Look at that. I just got paint on my paper where I didn't want it. Now I kind of see that as kind of like a hint to what the artist was doing. I'm just to look at that. I'm going to erase my paint just by brushing over it with water and dabbing it with a clean tissue. And if I put a background in, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Alright, I think I'm going to do this painting with a number 6 round. Let's keep it simple, just use one brush. And we're going to wet the snow underneath. Okay, just wet that up. And then we're going to make kind of a gray by taking some of our Indian red or burnt sienna and some of our blue, our ultramarine blue. It's going to give us kind of a grayish, a cool gray. It's kind of like a purpley gray. And I'm just going to kind of dab some of that in there. So when you're dealing with white, and this was the problem that Vicky was having, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have that same problem. I don't want to point Vicky out. Oh, she's so patient. Is that we see white, but we have a hard time identifying the color. So you kind of really have to look for it. In this case, we'll have some grays in our snow there. And if it's too dark, remember watercolor does dry lighter, but if you feel like it's too dark, then just gently tap it with your Kleenex or your paper towel, okay, and it will soften it right up. So it's hard to see with the glare, but if I tip it, you can kind of see there. So then I'm going to take that same color. Now the great thing about using ultramarine blue and Indian red or ultramarine blue and burnt sienna is that they're sedentary, not sedentary, they're sedimentary colors. So well, I forgot to draw the center on this. They will be easy to lift. So if you make a mistake, you can lift it away, which is nice. So I'm going to go ahead in here on my dry paper, because it will be a little easier to control. I'm going to go in and paint some shadows on this blossom over here. Okay, and since we know this is an easy to lift color, look what we can do. I'm going to rinse my brush off. I'm going to pinch it to get off any extra water, so it's just slightly damp, and I'm going to go around that, go on the edge, and look at that. I can lift it. I can soften it, and I can lift up any color that I don't want. I could play with it, move it around. That's the benefit of having a sedimentary color. Now if I used red and green to make my gray, I could not do that because those colors would stain. Okay, so as you paint, you get to know how your paints behave. And I got a little more yellow over there. I could throw in a background later, but I really want to get the flowers painted because that's what Vicky was having some trouble with, and it's probably something that y'all have a little bit of trouble controlling. So let's do that again on one of these other petals. We're going to go ahead and just throw in some gray. Oh, my brush a little bit wetter. Mix up a little bit more of that. So if you add more blue, you'll have a cooler color. If you add more of the brown, you're going to have a warmer color. And I'm using Indian red. That's the red that I'm using for this picture. It's important, I think, not to go too crazy with your colors. We're using 4 colors here, and we're mixing all our colors from those 4. Use an economy of colors, and you will have a better looking picture. Because you're making sure all your colors go. You're mixing your colors so they're all going to look like they belong. It's, you know, it's when you define local color, when you have local color in an object, you know, you keep going back to the same color so everything looks like it belongs, looks like it's part of the scene and the landscape. You don't end up with these awkward colors, which is really kind of the mark of like an amateur painting, is when you see like colors that don't belong, like they've used every color in the box of crayons, which is charming, and it can look very very charming and very primitive. But if you're looking to get something more natural and sophisticated, you want to limit your color palette. It's okay to have all of these colors, that's fine, you just don't use them all in one painting. Alright, now I'm going to let those mellow out a bit and let them dry and soften up. And I'm going to go ahead and work on the blades of grass. So I want to have a nice vivid smooth color here. I am actually going to paint a blade of grass here. And to keep my vibrance, I'm not going to mix my colors in my palette. I'm going to let them mix on the paper. So I'm going to go in with some sap green. Look at that as it just kind of mixes and blooms. And then I'm going to use some of this lemon yellow. And I'm really just going to let it blend on the paper. Let it do its thing. And I'm going to repeat that for the other petals. So go ahead and you can wet the stems too. The stems are going to be a little bit darker. And by now I think our snow at the bottom is probably dry by now. If not, it's going to bleed into there, but we'll just keep our paper towel handy so we can dab it away if we need to. I like to, in a lot of cases, I like to wet the paper first and then I drip in my color. So if I'm doing just the stems, I'm going to use just the sap green, maybe even add a little bit of ultramarine to it. That's a stem there too. I don't know if I got that one wet first. And a little bit of ultramarine. Hope that it's helpful to be able to see my palette there. I think it would be. A little bit of ultramarine with that. The stems aren't as glowing with color, so I want them to be a little more subdued, so I will mix that a little bit on my palette. And then I will go in with a pure color on my blades of grass there. Let the paint do its thing. That's what I really like about watercolors, is the paint kind of has a mind of its own and does what it wants to do. It doesn't need too much guidance from us sometimes, just let it do its thing. Okay, I've got a lot of paint in there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my brush in there and let it soak some of that up. Otherwise I'm going to have some weird ruffly blooms in there, and I don't really want that there, so I got to soak up some of that water. Okay, now these little guys up here that are kind of coming off of the stems are brighter. I'm going to paint them in with the that one I just kind of have to make up here because I didn't really sketch it in. I'm going to paint them in with more of just the yellow that's on my brush already. Then I will just pick up some of the green and just drop it in there. And it'll do its thing and it will be fabulous. Remember, this is a painting, not a photograph. If, you know, it's a little bit off, that's fine. And then I'm going to use the, oh actually this is very light. I'm going to make it nice light green. And paint in the tips of these stems, and if they, I'm going to let them blend out. You can let it dry and then do that if you prefer. I'm just going to figure out that's one of those. Oops, my kids are fighting upstairs. I don't know if you heard that or not. There must be some great injustice going on. They have just woken up a few minutes ago. Vacation week, so they are hopefully not going to come down and have me do dispute resolution till I'm done my video. Oh, I don't know. Oops, that's the wrong color green. I'm gonna wipe that up. Just put some emerald or something in there. That's not right. Get my sap green there. Water it down a bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine. And I'm going to paint the areas right above the snowdrop. It's much darker right there where it connects. So I got ultramarine and sap green there. I got too much water in my brush though. I need that a little bit darker. And less juicy. I'm just going to be careful that I don't let too much. That one bled out, but I kind of like that, so I'm going to leave it, but if you want you can wait a bit. And I'm going to take a little bit of that color and add it to the tips of these stamens inside here. And then I'm going to pick up some of the lemon and sap green mix, and I'm just going to blend it up with that. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off and just kind of pull that wet paint up over the gray. And that probably should be darkened up a little bit, so I'll use a little bit more of my ultramarine blue and Indian red mix. Just kind of add a little shadow in there while I'm at it. Alright, now I gotta flip this around. I gotta look at it right side up because, you know, it's nice to know what it actually looks like. Okay. I am going to fill in this right here, the rest of that. We're in frame, aren't we? Yes, and if you ever have a hard time seeing what I'm doing, look at the bottom of your YouTube player. There's a little spot where you can click to make it full screen. And that can be quite helpful to see the details. What I'm going to do now, we got about 4 minutes left before my camera is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this, I'm going to dry this with a heat gun, and we're going to erase the pencil marks and see what we have. So hold on just 1 second. Alright, I've dried my paper. You know your paper's dry when it's, you touch it and it's cool, and it's not cool to the touch. And I just have a plain white eraser. You can get these at the dollar store, the office supply store. Factus is a brand. All different brands make them. You want to make sure it's one of the white ones. It does give you a lot of eraser boogers, but it's very soft and it's not going to damage your paper. So when you go over to paint, you're not going to have spots where the paint takes unevenly because it's abrased paper. I think that's the right word. Alright, so I've wiped off all the glue boogers. My eraser lines are pretty much gone. Got a few more over here. And now we're going to go in and add some details to this. Okay, can you see that? It's very soft looking right now. So we've got 3 minutes left. Let me go in with a little more of that gray. We're going to use a very light touch with our colors. And hopefully finish this in the next couple of minutes. So I've got my number 6 brush comes to a nice point. I can go in and add any little details that I've erased. Smooth out anything that I think needs it. I mean, so you could also even add a little bit of yellow to the petals if you want to brighten them up a little bit. Any warm spots, you can add some yellow to the blossom, to the leaves. You're adding very little color at this point. And keep your tissue handy in case you add too much, you can blot it out. Remember, you can still go in there and lift out some of the other colors if you need to. I think of snowdrops as being a very cool flower, but if I do want to go in, I can add just a little touch of lemon to warm it up. And that's a pretty cool yellow, so if you want to go in there and kind of add a little highlight on the flower, you can do that with just a little bit of lemon. Remember, stick to those same colors. Don't be tempted to go into other colors. I know it's pretty to put some pinks in there. I would really recommend against it. Maybe just use a little bit of that Indian red if you want to have a a warmer look to it. That way you don't end up adding in those weird colors. They're going to make it look amateurish. I'm just going to add a little bit more yellowy green to my little leaves here. And really, that's about all I want to do to this. I'm going to flip it over really quick, add a little bit of a definition to the snow here. Maybe add some shadows right underneath the flowers, and put my initials in here. And really, that's about it. Of course, you can refine your drawing a little bit more with the tip of your brush and some gray. Go ahead and do that if you want to. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have a request or a question, you can leave it underneath the video in the comments section. Look at that, we can add a little bit more dark to define the petals if we want to. Just really look at what you're painting, find an image online, draw it from life, see what the colors actually are in what you're painting, and really your eyes won't steer you wrong if you do what you see. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!